Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. It's May 31st, 2016. Here's John Bound reporting.
Welcome to the BS Club, hosted by the United Kingdom's New World Order-backed propaganda machine, The Guardian. Apparently, The Guardian didn't have any problem rolling out the following baseless drivel to its readers/YouTube viewers. Of course, commenting on the U.S. presidential election whilst ignoring the massive problems in your own country is a sketchy undertaking to begin with. But when your publication is run by an elitist New World Order lackey like Dame Liz Forgan, the Dame being her high Masonic title, allowing Forgan to rub elbows with royalty, media oligarchs, and the Lord Rothschild, you do as expected. Here is what the Telegraph had to say about Dame Liz in 2013 before she became the chair of Scott Trust Limited, the British company that owns the Guardian Media Group. The Telegraph writes, "Why not spend £8,000 on a leaving do, a party held when leaving a job? That's what Dame Liz and her cast are entitled to. That's what the little people are there to pay for. There could be no clearer demonstration of the contempt that Dame Liz, who exudes the haughty sense of self-worth and entitlement that typifies the arts establishment, has for the rest of us, that she chose a drinks party funded by the taxpayer to attack the government for cutting the arts budget. Contempt and a jaw-dropping lack of self-awareness. So, without further ado, here is The Guardian's Stephen Thrasher looking forward to the day when America's dying white majority is overthrown and a political revolution led by people of color ends the white supremacist system currently represented by Donald Trump's presidential campaign."
When we had a clear symbol that the country is literally becoming more black, why shouldn't we have expected his successor to be the meanest, whitest, most vile bigot possible? And when protesters demanded that Black Lives Matter, why shouldn't we have anticipated the rise of a candidate who encourages violence against peaceful demonstrators? President Trump would fit right into American history. I'm waiting for the year 2043, when this white supremacist nation becomes mostly non-white. That's when true political revolution might be possible.
Thrasher, you work for the so-called dying white majority, completely ignoring that Europe and now the United States are quietly being invaded by Sharia law zealots hell-bent on throwing people of Thrasher's persuasion off of rooftops. Not to be outdone in the threat-laced propaganda lecturing is Guardian columnist Jonathan Friedland.
The world is watching. Then the world was inspired. Now we're scared. You won't rule out dropping a nuclear bomb on Europe. Islamophobia would be a matter of state policy. If you're Mexican, you'll know that the American president thinks you're basically a criminal or a rapist. There'll be a surge of what people will call anti-Americanism. People will mock the nation as dumb, vulgar, and aggressive. It'll be like it was in the George W. Bush years, only much, much worse.
Friedland, your smug elitist arrogance and weak threats are just as bad as your flaccid declaration of anti-Americanism. Your sycophantic jabbering makes me wonder when you're due back in the city of London for your umpteenth microchipping. And here's yet another Guardian columnist, Gary Young, to lecture us on our democracy in crisis, claiming Americans are blaming the refugees solely for the soft invasion of Europe and the United States. An invasion engineered by the very globalists signing Young's paychecks.
His ascent is part of a rise in right-wing populism throughout the Western world. Most Western nations have their own Trump, a racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic demagogue appealing to a mix of nationalist nostalgia, patriotic myth, class grievance, and economic insecurity. Now, liberal commentators describe them as a threat to democracy, but it would be more accurate to understand them as the product of democracy already in crisis.
The overall direction of The Guardian is going to be decided by the people who run the trust. And it will also include many powerful people who are very plugged into the international finance community.
Finance community?
Yes.
Anytime Guardian columnists Stephen Thrasher, Jonathan Friedland, Gary Young, and Dame Forgan, for that matter, want to have a debate over their claims, myself and a few other InfoWarriors would be happy to educate you on the glaring realities staring you squarely in the face. John Bound for Infowars.com.
That's right. The ultra elite are doing this. These men are front men of them. I'm your host, Alex Jones. Hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend. It is good to be back. Well, if you go up to Infowars.com, it becomes very, very clear exactly what is unfolding with the headlines there. But another place to go to get a clear image of the big push is DrudgeReport.com. The major social websites of the world, owned by the globalists, say stop the hate. Tech giants vow to tackle bad speech within 24 hours. Words directed against anyone over issues of race, color, religion will be shut down. National descent or national or ethnic origins will be banned. Unless you're the London Guardian, Facebook, the New York Times, and others coming out saying white people are inherently evil and inherently bad, and that there's a new cultural revolution against them. This is an attempt to sell racism to the third world and to old world countries, flood what's left of the West with those people, and assign racial identity to collectivism, socialism, and authoritarianism. Then you've conquered the planet. So this is a force feed operation, just looking at the demographics, to bill, if you live in Africa or Latin America or Asia or the Middle East or Eastern Europe, that the fall of the West is how you get ahead. When the social engineers on record are doing everything they can to keep those countries in squalor and in total social control as well, with UN vaccine medical forces out there openly injecting people with every bioweapon ever heard of. It is simply amazing. So that is just some of what we're going to be breaking down here today, ladies and gentlemen. It is incredible. And it's because of the cultural ignorance of the average Westerner. We have a TV culture. We have a vapid, centimeter-deep ocean of mindless boobs, on average, who have no conception of how the world even works. And then meanwhile, you've got third world countries being given culture by the multinational combines that control their governments, and that culture is an absolute hatred and vitriol against the West and against anyone with lack of melanin in their skin. This is colonialism, reformed by Christians, reformed by the West, selling Renaissance worldwide, trying to turn the planet around into a new era of prosperity. We become the most wealthy and powerful because we have the most freedom. Then the corrupt systems come take us over and turn us into an engine to take over the planet. They then flip that back inwardly, take our guilt that the West has, exacerbate it, and then tell us politically we must be slaves and accept the terms of surrender, or we're going to be called racist. And then when we do surrender, the demonization, the race baiting, the cultural warfare, the class warfare only triples on a yearly basis. Only gets worse. So again, the West was first to recognize true human barbarism on average and try to reverse it and try to curtail it and try to actually create wealth and prosperity for all. Comparatively. That's a historical fact. It's incontrovertible. Now, because of our Christian ethos, we love to beat ourselves with cultural whips and engage in all these different forms of penance. And we want to pay cultural indulgences to the government, to the media, to the culture to prove ourselves worthy. It's the new religion. They've replaced repressive forms of state-run Christianity that the Renaissance was all about stopping and promoting true Christian ideals. And they've just returned us to a new form of tyranny under a new religious basis that is political correctness. And that's what it is. It's a religion merged with the whole green religion that isn't about saving the earth, but about demonizing humanity itself. And so here it is. It's official. I told you it was coming. Matt Drudge told you it was coming. We saw the head of the Federal Elections Commission come out. We saw 40% of the FCC board vote last year. It failed, but narrowly, to come out and restrict the First Amendment heavily. And to give you an internet ID, basically, where if you get 3 strikes like YouTube, you aren't suspended off YouTube, you are suspended off of the internet, and you won't be able to work or have jobs or do anything. But meanwhile, they're going to expunge the records of felons who go through cultural governmental retraining to be leftist street operatives. And so they will now have armies of felons working for them, but you won't be able to have a job. And the TSA, as they said 14 years ago in a congressional meeting on C-SPAN, I've been telling you since it happened, I played clips when it happened. They said then the TSA will decide what job you have or if you can have a job with a national ID card. But that won't be enforced on the illegals. I mean, this is so massive. This is so over the top. This is truly our journey into bondage becoming almost complete. So here's Bloomberg. The headline should be, tech giants working with multinationals prepare a giant offensive against free speech worldwide as globalism goes into high gear and as the world financial collapse goes into its next phase. Elites accelerate massive censorship ahead of crackdowns on freedoms worldwide. That should be the headline. They're already arresting people in Germany and Sweden and France who mildly criticize the open borders. But now it's just calmly reported, tech giants vow, it's no big deal. Tech giants vow to tackle online hate speech within 24 hours. U.S. internet giants Facebook Inc., Twitter Inc., Google, and Microsoft Corp. pledged to tackle online hate speech in less than 24 hours as part of a joint commitment with the European Union to combat the use of social media by terrorists. Oh, we've got to take everyone's speech because of the terrorist, because of the bad little terrorist. The bad little terrorists are going to get us. And because they're going to get us with their bombs, because the government brought them in, 5 million of our little loving friends have been brought in, and 80%, according to Interpol, are military-age men. And I got stacks of news of them raping and robbing and killing, and highways shut down, and total bedlam, and ferries shut down, and just men running around with knives foaming at the mouth, and the police running and cowering in fear. I mean, this is what Europe is. This has been done by design by the socialists, and they're going to bring it completely down. And then, like they're doing all over the UK, they're going to put Muslims in charge as the police chiefs with socialists under them, and they're going to persecute, and they're going to arrest, and they're going to take over. And the average Western male is going to roll over on his back and get in a fetal position like a dog when it's scared and start urinating on themselves. And I'm not kidding. This is what we do. This is what we've been taught to do, and we're dead because of it. But it's all so liberal and trendy. U.S. internet giants Facebook Inc., Twitter Inc., Google, and Microsoft Corp. pledged to tackle online hate speech in less than 24 hours as part of a joint commitment with the European Union, with the government, to combat the use of social media by terrorists. And, of course, if you criticize the open borders, they arrest you in Germany and France and other places and let the Muslims run around and do whatever they want. So, see, they bring them in and then use them to take everybody else's freedoms. Beyond national laws that criminalize hate speech, there is a need to ensure such activity by internet users is expeditiously reviewed by online intermediaries and social media platforms under receipt of a valid notification in the appropriate time frame, the companies and the European Commission said in a joint statement today. And, of course, what's going to be done with all of this is it's all beta tested, first in China, now in Europe, now here. And it's already begun. By the way, groveling didn't do too well for him. Normally those that sell out are the ones that have their political heads lopped off first. SiriusXM announces suspension of Glenn Beck over Brad Thor interview comments where he came out and basically said somebody needs to kill Trump for the second time. Now, let me explain something. They're just using that. I'm not defending what Beck said as an excuse to get rid of him. They already got rid of over 300 libertarian hosts, despite the fact that we got them top signups, and There was another division that years ago put me on and was